Hello everybody, Erislash here with another Garen matchup guide. This time we'll cover Mordekaiser, the raid boss of League of Legends. Okay, so even though Mordekaiser looks really scary, it's not too bad if you know what you're doing, and since neither Mordekaiser or Garen have any fancy combos, the guide will focus more on concepts and things to look out for in this matchup. I will begin the guide with the most basic things to understand and cover harder and harder things as we go, ending with a general game plan as well as runes and items. But for now, let's find out what makes Mordekaiser so powerful.
Welcome to Oblivion.
Starting off with his passive, which not only enhances all of his auto attacks, but also creates a damaging aura around him after he dealt damage 3 different times, which also speeds him up. While your passive only works out of combat, his passive is the complete opposite and only works in combat and doesn't go away unless he stops attacking or misses any spells. So it's really important to cut away from his passive and not take extended trades with him. Second up, we have Mordekaisers Q, that deals damage in front of him and crits when it only hits one target. This spell has a really short cooldown, making it possible for him to use multiple Qs in a longer fight, making it even more important to take just short trades with him. Moving on to his W, it gives him a shield that gets bigger the larger the white bar below his HP is. He can also reactivate the W to heal for a portion of the shield amount. This spell is exactly why so many people fear the Mordekaiser lane. It makes him way tankier and harder to kill. A combo that would normally kill somebody from 8% HP requires Mordekaiser to be below half HP in order to kill him, just because of his W. Mordekaisers E is a grab attack and the most important spell to dodge, because it almost guarantees his Q, a few auto attacks, as well as a few seconds inside his passive. Getting hit by just one E can easily take half of your HP and ruin lane phase for a few minutes. Ending with the scariest part of Mordekaiser, his ultimate. For 7 seconds, you're forced into a 1v1, while he steals 10% of your stats, not only making you weaker, but also making him stronger. Because of this, combined with the damage from his passive Q and E, as well as tankiness from W, it is really hard to kill him, unless you are ahead in items or if he's already low on HP. So in his ultimate, you should just focus on staying alive and running away from him. Now that we understand a bit better what makes Mordekaiser so strong, let's focus on how to play around it and how to beat him. An easy start would be knowing when to use W to get the most use out of it. The way I see it, there are 3 different good options for W usage. The first way to use your W is blocking Mordekaiser's isolated crit Q. Since this spell deals the most damage, it only makes sense that you block this, and it becomes extra important in his ultimate when he has stolen some of your magic resist to deal even more damage. The second way to use W is when you can't make it out of his E in time and have to tank the entire combo. Using W here saves a bit more HP than when you're just using it to block the isolated Q. But since you should really focus on dodging Mordekaisers E, you shouldn't really have to use W for this combo a whole lot. The third and final use of W is my favorite, and not really used by a lot of Garen players. It is when you use W to block a normal Q for Mordekaiser. The small shield as well as the damage reduction from your W should be enough to keep your passive going and save you 8 seconds of downtime on your passive. This trick becomes extra important when you buy Doran's Blade and not Doran's Shield, since you no longer heal after getting hit or take damage from an enemy champion. As discussed a bit earlier in the video, getting hit by Mordekaisers E is really bad, because most of the time it leads to a guaranteed Q, a few auto attacks and some time inside of his passive, making it really hard to lane afterwards. The spell has quite a long cast time though, so the way you dodge this is pretty simple. Just walk 90 degrees away from the spell and it should never hit you, as long as you're ready and know roughly when he will use it. To understand when he will use it, you kinda have to be inside his head and think like the Mordekaiser, and understand that there are 3 different ways he can use his E effectively. The first way is that he just throws it out during the laning phase to try and hit you for some quick poke damage. This is often followed by a quick Q for a little damage during the trade, but nothing more. It usually happens when you are trying to farm, either in the middle of the lane or under your turret. The second way he can use his E is to hook you back in after you've gone for a little trade and he wants to extend it while you're trying to run away. This is the most important E to dodge. Failing the dodge here means that you won't be able to run away with your Q, since you already used it in the trade. And the speed he gets from his passive means that he can keep hitting you for a long time, and you will guaranteed take a lot of damage. The third and final way he can use his E is by throwing it backwards while he's trying to escape from you. This way the E no longer works as a hook, but instead as a knockback ability, creating some space between you and him. Failing to dodge this just means that he can run away from you, and you potentially lost an opportunity to kill him, but at least you won't die if you fail to dodge this kind of E. So those are the main ways he can use his E, and by understanding them, it makes it much easier to predict when he will use his E, and therefore also making it easier to dodge it. A harder trick that might seem a bit strange requires you to intentionally get hit by his E in order to get close to him. While getting into his E almost guarantees that his Q also lands, it also puts you closer to him, making it super easy for you to kill him if he's already missing some HP. But for you to have kill pressure, he needs to be really low on HP or have his W on cooldown. Here, after he used his W to heal up after our little trade, I know that he won't be able to use it to tank my entire combo, so I can just kill him for free. Only intentionally get hit by his E if you know that he is in kill range and you can finish the job. Because if he isn't in kill range, you're gonna stand inside his passive, you're gonna get hit by his Q, and you're probably gonna lose over half your HP and ruin your laning phase. Now, let's talk about how he uses his W and how you can play around it. If they decide to hold their W to get a bigger shield, you should just do a quick little trade and run away after parts of your E is done. This way, the Mordekaiser didn't block any of your damage, while you blocked most of his damage with your W, making it a free and easy trade for you. And he might use W after your little trade to heal back some of the HP lost. You should use this window of around 12 seconds, where his W is on cooldown, so all in him and maybe even flash on him if you need to. If he's holding his W for a really long time, you can choose to hold your Q as well, and then use it right before ulting to prevent him from ever using W. Keep in mind that this rarely happens, and most Mordekaiser players knows about this trick. If the Mordekaiser instead uses his W at the start of the trade to block the damage from your short trade, you should immediately run away if the shield is big enough, or continue with the trade if the shield he used wasn't that big.
A king never falters.
Moving on to one of the hardest and also most important tricks, which is spacing Mordekaisers Q. Whenever you get hit by his Q, not only does it deal a lot of damage, but it also stops your passive from working. One very useful trick that works super well, but is hard to perform, is spacing outside his Q range. Now this trick works on other champions as well, but it's extra good against Mordekaiser, because his Q is such a short range and is well telegraphed. For this to work effectively, you also need to know when he wants to Q you, for example when taking space in lane or walking up to take CS. Make sure that you always walk back a bit right when you want to take the CS and he's about to Q you. After you have spaced a Q, you can easily walk up to take farm, trade with him, or just take some more space in lane, which is really good and hard to do without dodging his Q. For the general game plan and summary, you want to play safe in lane, try to space his Qs to make it easier to get CS, trade with him and also take some space in the lane. You can trade with him after he misses his E, or be prepared to dodge it while escaping from him. If he holds his W, then just do a quick little trade and run away. If he uses it instantly, there's no point in hitting the shield, so you should just back off. When his W is on cooldown, try to all-in him if he's a bit lower on HP. The three ways to use your W is to block his E and entire combo, to block only the isolated Q, or to block a normal Q to keep your passive going. If he's in kill range, you should intentionally get hit by his E to get closer to him, making it easier for you to kill him. Avoid taking extended trades to minimize his passive effectiveness and your lack of sustained damage after your E is done. When he ults, you just want to run away the entire duration, unless he's ulting while he's already in kill range. For the runes, there are 3 commonly used options: Grasp, Conquer and Phase Rush, and they are all good in different situations. Grasp is great if you want to do more short trades and maxing your Q ability first. Conquer is another great fighting rune, which gives you a bit better sustained damage, and Phase Rush is the safest option out of the 3. Because Phase Rush is the safest option, I recommend newer players to use this rune because it helps you escape his passive aura after he has gotten revitalized that would otherwise trap you inside of it. If you decide to go Conquer or Grasp, you're giving up your Get Out of Jail free card and could easily get stuck inside of his passive slow field. Here are great examples of full rune pages for different keystones, as well as a short explanation with the pros and cons. Feel free to pause the video and read everything, and if you're still a bit confused, don't hesitate with commenting down below and I'll most likely answer all of your questions. I'll make a full rune guide for Garen in the future that covers everything there is to know about runes for Garen, but until then this serves as a short mini guide. When it comes to the specific items that are good against Mordekaiser, I'm still not 100% sure, since the new season removed all the mythic items and made almost every bruiser item viable, but out of all the viable bruiser items, 2 of them are extra good against Mordekaiser, those being Trinity Force and Spear of Shojin. Trinity Force is really good because it gives you a bit of everything, as well as great burst damage from Sheen, making your short trades a lot stronger. Shojin, on the other hand, really excels in longer trades, where you can take full advantage of the insane ability haste as well as the increased spell damage. If the enemy team has some low HP champions that you need to burst, Trinity is great, but if they are all as melee and tanky as Mordekaiser, then Spear of Shojin is better. For your second item, you need to start looking at the enemy team comp and decide if you need one of the great movement speed items, or if the enemy team are all slow moving characters where the raw stats are better. If you just want to beat Mordekaiser harder in a 1v1, build either Spear of Shojin or Trinity Force, depending on which one you didn't go first, as well as buying a Negatron cloak. Sitting on just this cloak for 900 gold gives you 50 magic resist, which is insanely strong versus AP champions, and it will make the 1v1 10 times easier. This cloak can later be upgraded into either Jackshow, Force of Nature or Chainic Ruger. Jackshow if Mordekaiser is the only AP champion on the enemy team, Force of Nature if you need some speed against the enemy team, or Chainic Ruger if the enemy team have a lot of burst and you don't have time to stack up Force of Nature. Other generally great bruiser items are things like Sterax, Hullbreaker and Stridebreaker. A full build would look something like this. If you made it to the end of the video, I want to thank you so much for watching, and I would love to hear your thoughts on the video down in the comments section. If you're interested in more Garen matchup guides, as well as high elo Garen gameplay, check me out on Twitch. I'm live almost every single day from 7 PM to 1 AM Central European time, and make sure to subscribe to not miss out future videos. But until then, good luck on the Rift, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye!